Welcome to the Ad Nauseam podcast, where classical gourmands everywhere can finally get their fill. Join us for a delectable discussion of Greco-Roman civilization stretching from the Minoans and Mycenaeans through the Renaissance and right down to the present. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Dr. David Noe and Dr. Jeff Winkle.
Welcome, listeners, to the Ad Nauseam podcast. My name is Dr. Jeff Winkle. I'm down here in the bunker, Parnassus, Ad Nauseam Central.
That's correct.
Any of those names will do.
Good enough.
I'm down here on a cold February day.
But sunshine.
Sunshine, but yeah, aching. It's that push-pull of this part of the season. We're entering that season that we're not going to mention.
No,
right?
we're not. You're going to say liminality, and I'm not going to say smarch.
No, exactly. We're not going to talk about either of those things. But on the whole, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling
I was just
healthy.
about to ask.
Yep. And how about you, Dave? How are you doing?
Well, I'd like to know, is spring break on the horizon? Are you on the cusp of spring break?
Yes. In fact, I as of about a half hour ago, I guess I'm officially on it.
Really?
Yes. We have
incredible.
a very early spring break, which is not spring.
Yeah. I love those dental metaphors. The cusp.
The cusp.
I think that's a dental metaphor.
Yeah.
Because you got your cuspids.
Yes, exactly.
You got your incisors, your canines.
Right. Yeah.
I'm on the epiglottis of spring break, something like that.
That's exactly where I am right
Okay.
now. Yeah.
You're going to do any travel?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where my kids and my wife, they're on a completely different schedule.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm already just thinking about kind of a list of house repairs.
That's right. You're going to be sitting around in your slippers and your nice terry cloth robe.
Yes, exactly.
Binge watching something.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like you.
Yep.
Chips on your chest, maybe.
So I'm looking forward to that.
All
the
right.
break and getting some things done.
And
how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm still putting off answering that question directly, but I was going back through some old episodes of our little show.
Yeah.
Because I've been preparing, as you might know, I've been preparing some blog posts.
Yes.
Which, with the help of AI, all you haters can now hate, have turned out really excellent. There's a host of information packed into these episodes sometimes.
Yeah.
And the tool I'm using extracts it, cleans it up. I go through it, go over it carefully, make sure everything is accurate. I have to ask myself, did Jeff say that or did I say that? But there's a lot of good substance in there. And in fact, listeners could use some of it in their classroom prep, if I can be as bold as that. If they're teaching a Latin class on Virgil, there's a lot of good stuff in there. Things that we said, that we researched, the Brooks Otis, the William Anderson, all the different scholars we brought in. But where I'm going is, I looked back when you and your family visited the Concrete Parthenon.
Yeah.
Which is quite a while ago.
Yeah, and, 3 years now.
Yeah, we talked about it on the show, and that's a pretty good name for a rock band.
The Concrete Parthenon.
Concrete Parthenon.
That's not bad, yeah.
That's correct.
The one in Nashville.
That's right.
Yeah.
The first album would be, the Pronoia, something like that?
Pronoia.
The Propylaea.
Propylaea, exactly. Well, that would be great. Like, in each subsequent album could take you further up into the Acropolis.
Exactly.
I love it. Exactly.
Erythium.
Yeah.
That, that pretty much writes itself.
Right. So
I'm feeling pretty well. I'm feeling well. I like the sunshine outside, despite the bitter temperatures. Pretty soon, we're going to crest the cusp of something like that.
Yeah.
Crest the cusp of March. And it's long been my theory that here in West Michigan, if you can just make it to that point, the rest is smooth sailing.
It's true.
You can coast down into the balmy climes of April.
It's true, but it's a grind to get there.
Well, there's some of that, for sure.
Right. And I have to ask about these blog posts.
Yes.
Is this something that you could feed back into in audio and make it sound like our podcast is read by Morgan Freeman?
You know, I hadn't thought about that. Do you have a Morgan Freeman voice?
Yeah.
You can hear it. I'm toying with it a little bit.
Oh, yes. Nice. Yeah. Nicely done. Yeah.
Thinking about it, we could do that.
Yeah.
I have warned family members
that
if they get a phone call from me, I guess from you as well, asking for money, ask some kind of question that an AI would never know the answer to. Because this is a real danger, right?
Right.
211 episodes. It would be really easy for some ne'er-do-well to harvest some of that, feed it into an AI, and spit out, some kind of a prank call saying, send me $1,000, right?
Yes. Right, so you need some kind of safe word.
That's correct.
Man.
Do you have an idea for a safe word? For you, it would be... Apuleius.
Apuleius would be a good safe word. And for you, it would be...
I don't know, but the AI could guess it.
I know.
It's got to be some deep, deep childhood cut.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like one I got on my finger when I was opening a can of peaches.
Yeah. that would be the deep cut?
That'd be the deep cut.
Nice.
All right.
Yes.
So what are we talking about today?
Well, should we do our shout out first?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yes.
Keep the audience in suspense, assuming they haven't read the title.
Yeah.
You want to get this one started?
Yeah, this is a shout out from one Andrew Hussman. So
Yes.
Is this someone you know, or is this just out of the blue?
This is out of the blue. As you read through the shout out, you'll notice that he has been listening to us for a while,
Great.
although he makes a true confession about just how many episodes he has listened to. But this is the first time we have heard from Andrew.
Yes, and so he wrote to you saying, Dr. Noah, I'd be honored with a shout out at some point. But he also says, but be warned, I've written a lot.
Yeah, we've been through this before, right?
Yeah.
The guys that send us the 3-ring binder shout out.
Yes. So he says he's a Lutheran pastor from the Wisconsin Synod, teaches Latin full-time at Luther Preparatory School in Watertown, Wisconsin. I admit my ignorance of Wisconsinian geography.
Right.
Where I'm at.
Well, there's the cheese belt in Wisconsin.
Yes.
And then the rest is the Dells, I think.
Okay.
The
Exactly.
Dells is kind of a tourist attraction.
Yeah, I went there as a kid.
You
Yeah.
move from the cheese to the Dells, and the rest, I think, is just preparing for Minnesota.
Is that what that is? Okay.
That's what
All
I
right.
understand.
That's very helpful. So he writes, our high school exists to encourage and prepare students for their Christian lives in general and for serving in the ministry of the church in particular. And this is because of the important role that Latin has played in the history of Western civilization, especially in the church. All incoming freshmen are required to take Latin for 1 year.
That's
All right.
great.
Excellent. About 10 to 20% of the students have historically chosen to continue studying Latin for the rest of their high school years. That's good to hear.
That's excellent. Yeah.
You want to carry it on?
Sure. Andrew says, all this is simply to say that the labors you've put into your podcast have borne fruit here at Luther Prep, at least in how they've impacted my own teaching and in my students' learning. Over the past few years, I've listened to as many episodes as I've been able to, though admittedly not all of them.
That's a little... Okay.
That's the pain, isn't it?
Right.
I've even borrowed some of the titles from your Aeneid episodes when leading my own students through the Aeneid. I have one word for you.
Yeah?
Copyright.
Yeah.
Andrew.
Andrew.
One other word, trademark.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
It's comforting to know that I'm not the only one who hears the sounds of groaning when sharing a good pun. I don't know what he's talking about.
I'm unclear as
You
well.
ever heard any sound of groaning?
No.
All I hear is applause echoing through my own mind.
That's right.
But perhaps it was the most recent episode on Luther's Latin poetry that I personally related to the most. With regard to getting to talk with Dr. Carl Springer in person, I was able to beat you to the punch. I don't like the violence here. Beating and punching?
Yeah,
Come on, Andrew.
Yeah.
Last fall, when I had the privilege of meeting him at a conference on Lutheranism and the Classics, where we talked briefly about his book, among other things. I was not, as a Reformed individual, I wasn't invited to this. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
In addition, a friend of mine, Aaron Jensen, happens to have prepared another translation of Luther's Adversus Aromatum Virdum Cocleum, which will appear in a forthcoming volume of the continuation of Luther's Works series from Concordia Publishing House. Andrew was right. This is a long one. You want to go on from there, please?
Yeah, he says, I myself have also taken part in translating for the new Luther's Works series. And in general, I love reading, translating, and researching how the thinkers of the 16th to 17th centuries can connect us in the 21st century with the biblical and Greco-Roman world. Yeah, it sounds like our podcast is right up his particular alley. The fact that Ad Nauseam does not neglect the Renaissance and Reformation when covering the multitude of classical topics that you cover is one of the many things that, in my book, sets your podcast apart.
That's correct.
Excellent.
It's our desire to consume it all that sets us apart.
Exactly.
Stretching from the Minoans and the Mycenaeans
up. Yeah, Mycenaeans and Minoans up to the present day.
Yes, through the Renaissance and right down to the present. And then he says, thanks for all that you do and for your time here, which I think means reading my long email.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Andrew.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening and thanks for writing. That's
keeping
great.
the flame going. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff, well, that wraps up the preliminaries.
Yep.
And we're ready to welcome Dr. Robert D. Stacey to the show. And he's going to talk to us today about democracy in America, Alexis de Tocqueville, and can the classics survive in a democracy?
Yeah, can't wait. No, so Bob was a former colleague of yours.
That's correct.
Right? So you taught side by side with him for a
we
number of
did
years?
6 years, yep.
Fantastic. Excellent.
And here we go. Welcome, Bob, to the program. We're very glad that you could join us this afternoon. Where are you coming from?
I'm coming from Jackson, Tennessee. I'm the head of school here at the Augustine School in Jackson.
Jeff, have you ever been to Jackson, Tennessee?
I have not. I've been to Nashville and environs, but I've not. I don't know how close Jackson is to Nashville.
You've been to Memphis, right?
Been to Memphis, yes. But,
yeah. Bob, where is Jackson relative
to Jackson,
to those?
We're called the hub city because we're kind of the halfway point between Memphis and Nashville. So everything in between us, like this, we're it.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Now, is it true in Jackson, as it is elsewhere, that Tennessean is Tennessee-believin'?
I was hoping you would bring that up. Yes, Tennessean is definitely Tennessee-believin'.
All right. So they're in what might count as the heartland. Bob is teaching at the Augustine School. And as we get started for our listeners, they're not as familiar with you as I am. And can you tell us just a little bit about your background, your biography, how you ended up there, and your interest in de Tocqueville?
Yeah, so full disclosure, David and I used to work together. For better or worse, I think we were maybe, I don't know, part of the solution, part of the problem at Patrick Henry College. Maybe some of both. That's right. Yeah, that was early for both of us in our careers, I think. Wonderful times, though. In many ways, we were sort of fellow soldiers in the trenches together.
That's right.
And that built a relationship, and I still appreciate it to this day.
2006, right?
2006. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we were hired at the same time. And Bob, you came there from. I don't remember the details of your educational background, but our listeners are interested in this kind of stuff. So
sure.
Take a little time and let us know.
Yeah, no. So I did my undergraduate work at the University of Pennsylvania over in Philadelphia. Majored in political science for some reason. Nobody knows why. From there, though, I went on to graduate school at the University of Virginia and got a PhD in government and politics there. And that was just that really kind of shaped my career from that point on. And that's where I first, by the way, was first introduced to Alexis de Tocqueville. It's something I still enjoy reading to this day. No, I spent a brief time in Tennessee early in my career at Lee University, but then after just a single year, went over to Patrick Henry College and spent about 6 or 7 years there.
Yeah. And you've got a lovely wife and 3 sons, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. Believe it or not, they are now grown sons. My youngest is 19.
Wow. And taller than you, maybe, Bob? I don't know.
Oh, they're all tall. I'm now the shortest person in my family.
Yeah, it's what's on the inside that counts.
That's what I keep telling them. Yeah.
I tell people, on the inside, I'm about 10 feet tall. Right?
That's right. I'm gigantic inside.
Exactly. Right. So while you lived in the South, I seem to remember you had a German Shepherd with a bit of a provocative name.
So that first year in Tennessee, we got a German Shepherd. He's a great dog. His name was Sherman. Named for William Tecumseh, which did not always sit well with the locals, but he was a fantastic dog.
Yeah. And Sherman, who said war is blank, and the worse it is, the sooner it's over, something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. To the point.
So now you're serving as a head of school. What sorts of things do you get to teach there at the Augustine School?
So actually, I'll tell you, many heads of school don't get the opportunity to teach. It's often considered like the full-time job unto itself, but. When I first came to Augustine, almost 5 years ago now, actually about 5 years ago right now, we were negotiating, if you want to call it that, the contract offer they made. And I told them one requirement would be that I have to be able to teach at least one class while serving as head of school. And so I have the opportunity to teach a class we call here Government and Economics. And we take basically a semester or so to work through just the ins and outs of American government. And then we follow that up in the spring with kind of just looking at sort of how the economy works and some basic micro and macroeconomic principles for them.
Fascinating. I have to tell you, Jeff, Bob is a superb teacher.
Yeah.
When we were together at Patrick Henry, it was always a competition. I wanted to carve out maybe 5% of the students' affection. Can you give me 5%?
Oh, yeah.
Bob had a solid 95 most of the time because I mean, he was teaching things that, really plucked their heartstrings, like government, and I was teaching the ablative absolute. So not sure it was a fair competition, but Bob is an excellent teacher.
Awesome. I love it.
So did you want to ask anything else about the biography, Jeff?
So where are you originally from, Bob?
I'm a native of Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, a little town called Altoona, which is about 100 miles from Pittsburgh.
Okay. Yeah. And then and from there off to the Ivy League.
Yeah, exactly. So I went to the other side of the state, Philadelphia, and then I basically after that I went to the University of Virginia, and I've been below the Mason-Dixon line ever since.
Excellent.
I thought you might get this reference, given the name, the first name of our co-host, Dr. Winkle. This is a movie reference I thought you would get. There are 2 types of people in this world. Think back to 1991 and Bill Murray. Those who like Neil Diamond and those who don't. My ex-wife loves him. Who is that?
I don't know. I don't know that.
Johnny Pop?
I don't know that.
It's from the Bill Murray movie, What About Bob?
Okay, I have seen that movie. I don't remember that line, though.
Okay.
That's great.
All right.
Which is a funny movie.
Yeah, moving on to Alexis de Tocqueville. And we'd like to start, Bob, with just setting you up with a little quote here. And this is from the this is volume 2. I guess it would be book 1, chapter 15. And this is the translation, I think, was done by Mansfield. And is it Darva? I'm trying to remember.
Delva Winthrop, his late wife, actually.
Right.
They were married when they did that translation together.
Interesting.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So here's the opening quote that we would like you to interact with a little bit, please, because what we're trying to get at today is it possible for a democracy like the American Republic or democracy to produce great works of art? So here's the opening quote. What was called the people in the most democratic republics of antiquity scarcely resembled what we name the people. In Athens, all citizens took part in public affairs, but there were only 20,000 citizens out of more than 350 inhabitants. I guess it would be 350,000 inhabitants. All the others were slaves and fulfilled most of the functions that in our day belong to the people and even to the middle classes. Athens, with its universal suffrage, was therefore, after all, only an aristocratic republic in which all the nobles had an equal right to the government. So this is where de Tocqueville, as you know better than I, is setting up the contrast between the great flourishing of art and literature in 5th century Athens with what we have today in America. Yeah. So can you start out with some general thoughts on that subject?
Yeah, sure. I think he's trying to make an important distinction just with the term democracy, because I think those of us who have studied antiquity, Greek democracy is sort of the definitive part of that. But what we mean by Greek democracy is not the same thing that Tocqueville's talking about at all when he's talking about modern Western democracy. His introduction to the Democracy in America text is just fantastic. It's kind of lengthy, but he delves into that more deeply, and he sees the Greeks as a jumping off point. And that's really, I think in his mind, still kind of a form of aristocracy that he sees as juxtaposed with what we call modern democracy.
Okay, so thank you. A little bit further on, he sets it up, I would say, more pointedly. He says, it is evident that in democratic centuries, the interest of individuals as well as the security of the state requires that the education of the greatest number be scientific, commercial, and industrial rather than literary. Greek and Latin ought not to be taught in all schools, but it is important that those whose nature or whose fortune destines them to cultivate letters or predisposes them to that taste find schools in which one can be made a perfect master of ancient literature and wholly steeped in its spirit. So is de Tocqueville saying, in the particular kind of economy or society that we have now, say 1840s America, which I believe is when he visited this country, but perhaps even more so now at the beginning of the 21st century or quarter of the way in, it's really not reasonable nor even a good thing to expect most people to get a literary education. They have to stick to STEM, really, because that's what we need. That's the interest of the individual. Is that what de Tocqueville's saying?
Something along those lines, I think, yeah, and it's not just what we need; it's what they can do. Okay. And I'm not trying to be elitist here, and I'm not sure that Tocqueville is either. But I think he's suggesting there's a form of education, what you and I might call a literary education. It's a beautiful and wonderful thing, but it's not accessible to everybody. And to try to imagine if we're going to stuff everybody into that, we're going to be stretching them and maybe even doing some harm to students who wouldn't be maybe necessarily ready and prepared for that or capable of that. In an aristocracy, you don't really have that problem, right? Because it's not going to be open to everybody. But in a democracy, where in one sense all doors are open to everybody, we ought to be careful about who walks through which doors.
So can you articulate a little more, either from your own experience or, drawing from de Tocqueville, does he articulate the ways in which it could be harmful? I mean, what's particularly harmful about, say, an 18-year-old kid takes a course in Shakespeare, he doesn't understand a lot of it, it might improve him a little bit, but where's the potential for harm?
Yeah, harm might be a strong word, but there's a threshold for success, right? That many students, I think he's suggesting, just won't be able to reach. Okay. And so are we doing them any favors by sort of, again, taking everybody and kind of mashing them into this sort of like difficult situation? And that, as a flip side of that, are we doing those who are capable any favors by running them through the same system where they're going to be surrounded by those who maybe aren't capable, aren't up to the task, but that's my classmate, that's my circumstance, that's my classroom.
Right. Now, Jeff, you are a person who teaches here at GRCC, the Grand Rapids Community College, right. And you've talked about this on a number of occasions. I'd like to hear maybe if you can spell that out and get Bob's take on it about the kid who's getting a degree in HVAC, but he finds himself in your comparative religions class.
Yeah, I mean, I think the community college in particular kind of sits on this knife edge, right? That so at the one I teach there, every student is they have to take a certain amount of classes in the different areas, and so they all have to kind of filter through some humanities course, even if they're getting a certificate in welding. And I mean, it's something I love about the college. But this is something that Dave and I have talked about that. In some ways, like it hasn't really changed since de Tocqueville's day. That uniquely American kind of issue with education, like what is its purpose, and if it's not going to make you $1 at the end of it, what use is it, and so kind of that lofty ideal of education, of freeing the spirit, and then also the purpose of education is to get you a job, right? And I mean, it's fascinating for me to see kind of de Tocqueville kind of put his finger on this very thing, almost 200 years ago.
Yeah. I think he definitely saw it coming, and maybe no surprise. I think what he's saying is it's the natural consequence of equality and democracy. What we're just seeing are the fruits of something that we chose a couple hundred years ago.
So that's the part that I would like you to talk about more, if you would, please, Bob, because this is an area in which I don't think Jeff or I have any expertise. How is it kind of the inevitable consequence of equality in education and democracy?
Yeah, I think for Tocqueville, what equality it comes with this set of, I don't know what to call them, sort of implications or just realities that are attached to it. Among that are going to be, we're going to insist that everybody have opportunities, right? Because that's equality.
Right.
But we also know in our hearts, if we're honest with ourselves, that capabilities aren't the same. Capabilities aren't equal. And so there will be different outcomes, and some will be able to ascend very highly, right? There will be people who are very gifted, but they will be rare and unusual. So as a result, we're gonna want to educate and again sort of train up everyone. That's equality for us. Nobody's gonna, no child left behind. But the outcomes won't be the same. And so how do we accommodate different outcomes among a class of equals? That's not an easy thing. But you see it. He's saying you're going to see it in every category of life. You're going to see it in the arts. Sure, you'll see it in education. You'll see it on the job, in the job place. You're going to see it everywhere. Where you're going to have these distinctions formed, but they can't be they can't be class distinctions, right? You can't have people who are just better than others. They're just different outcomes for equal people.
Did you have a question there, Jeff?
Yeah, I was wondering, just before we kind of get too far into it, if we could back up and just talk a little bit more about, and this is something that I'm not familiar with. I mean, I know about de Tocqueville and democracy in America. I know that he was interested in the issue of slavery, but I'm curious, what brought him to America? What was he after? What was he thinking about bringing back to France? And
yeah. I always when I teach this book every year, I still do, right? I love it. I always introduce it to the students by saying the following: Tocqueville was actually sent by the French government to the United States with a partner. He actually traveled with another person. You don't see this person come up in the book at all. You would think Tocqueville was on his own. But
so
he
that's
had
his co-host for his podcast.
Exactly, he had a co-host. He had, as it were, a sidekick. And they toured America together. They were together the whole time. They were sent by the French government to study American prisons, particularly recidivism. At the time, in the 1820s and 30s, the United States had the lowest recidivism rate. By recidivism, we mean returning to crime after you've served your time and sentence, right? America had the lowest rate of recidivism in the Western world. And the French government wanted to learn about that, so they sent Tocqueville to go study U.S. prisons. And he came back and he wrote the report. You can find it. It's out there. He wrote a report about that. But he also wrote this book, Democracy in America. Actually, if I could take just a moment, I think this might be helpful to us. When we say Volume 1 and Volume 2, it's worth noting they're separate. They're about 5 or 6 years apart in publication. And it's not even clear that Tocqueville saw them as one book. It looks like he may have seen them as two separate works. One kind of picking up where the other left off, maybe, but not necessarily. We printed them between two covers, but he didn't originally. And I think if you look at Volume 2 carefully, what you're seeing is a greater concern on Tocqueville's part, having thought through for several more years the same issues, the concerns that he has. I think Volume 1 is more optimistic about the possibilities of democracy. What we're talking about right now is in volume 2, where he's concerned maybe about some of the downsides of democracy that weren't so clear to him earlier, but have become clear as he's thought about it.
Fascinating. So it was the era of huge works, right? You've got the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, right? With Gibbon, no self-respecting novelist like Victor Hugo.
Yeah.
You write a novel that's 800 pages.
Yeah,
that's just the first chapter. Come on, get going, right? So, I mean, he's kind of a part of that genre, isn't it? Of a exhaustive detail.
Yeah. So, we have a 700-page text, but he kind of printed 350-page texts.
Wow.
Do we have any? Is there any record of how the French responded to his findings, either about prisons or about democracy?
Another great question. And it's you ask it the right way, because as I will often tell my students also, he writes the book in French, right? If he wanted to speak to Americans, us, he would have written it in English. He could have. He just didn't. He also didn't do it in Latin, by the way. He could have done that as well. He was
yeah, that's too
Latin. Yeah. Well, again, so if he's writing to a scholarly class, maybe he does write in Latin. If he's writing to Americans, he writes in English. But he's writing to Frenchmen about their French democracy, in fact, right? So it's in French, the vernacular of the French people. The thing looks like, though, just in terms of the popularity of the book, it didn't hit, like the French audience didn't pick it up very well. It did not do well in that sense. It does, however, it gets legs outside of France, particularly in England and America. There's a lot more interest there over time.
Right. Yeah. So to go back to the is that
that's great.
Excursus wrapped up?
Yeah.
Okay. To go back to the point then, would de Tocqueville say, or Tocqueville, would he say there's a basic confusion here between political equality and other kinds of equality? So, Bob Stacey's an expert in government, Jeff's an expert in Apuleius, I have other expertise, right? So we're going to stay in our lane in terms of what we're able to do, but when we go to the voting booth, the ballot box, everyone is getting one vote. And is he kind of saying that once you accept that as a political reality, it clouds your judgment in all these other areas, so that you think, well, my picking out something on the piano is as good as Haydn, or whoever is one's favorite. Is that kind of his argument?
Sort of, yeah. I think he's, let's say, Tocqueville the man, just as a thinker. I think he would express something exactly as you just expressed it. That, again, as we make this distinction between sort of quality of outcomes, right? He's not. We shouldn't expect such a thing. That's kind of crazy, actually.
Yes.
But as an observer of society, I think he's concerned that, as you suggested, indeed we will confuse those points, and we're going to, as a people, we will expect equal outcomes because we love equality so much. And in fact, for Tocqueville, the heart of the whole book, from beginning to end, both volumes, I would even argue, he's concerned about not so much equality. He says in the very beginning, equality is going to happen. Whether you want it or not, you're going to have equality. And we're going to love it, by golly.
You're going to have political equality within a democracy, but liberty is the thing you might not get.
Exactly. That's the variable, right? So and he has this great line in the introduction of the book where he says, right now, so he's talking like 1830s, right? Right now, it's still new. I mean, what he says, he says democracy is inevitable and it's going to take over the entire world. When he says that, you could argue there were only 2 democracies in the whole world, arguably, right? Maybe a couple more, but looking back, he's kind of right. Like, even those countries today that we would say maybe aren't very democratic often feel they have to have the fig leaf of democracy, right?
Right.
I mean, if you ask North Korea, they would say they're a democracy, right?
Mm-hmm. The People's Republic of North Korea.
Right.
That's right.
How did Tocqueville's France of the 1830s compare to America in terms of who was enfranchised and to whom did the vote belong?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think at that time, so by the time you get to Tocqueville's age, right? So not the revolution. The revolution's been over now for 30, 40 years by the time he starts writing. So it's a couple generations out. And you've been through Napoleon, right, and all that. At this point, it's fairly democratic. They're like, they're like 3 republics in or whatever it is at that point. They kind of go through some cycles, right? But they've kind of ironed out the democratic part. But this is Tocqueville's point. I mean, what's he want his French fellow citizens to see in his work? In America, they have many of the same essentials, right? The franchise, the approach is similar. but they seem to be thriving. Like, they seem to have equality in the good sense. They also seem to care about liberty. How do we in France, how do we replicate that? Because his concern is we don't have it. And also, as you get to volume 2, maybe it's not even normal. Maybe it's actually unusual for democracies to have liberty along with their equality.
So, Bob, I also happen to know that one of your sons is named Niccolo. Am I correct?
Correct, yes.
Yes, he's named after Machiavelli, the Italian political theorist. Yes, and my children have some unusual names. You got to love academics. That's right. That's the kind of thing they do. But can you compare
academics and rock stars?
Exactly. Is there any distinction? Can you compare a little bit about the what happened in Florence at the end of the 15th, beginning of the 16th century under Lorenzo and before him Cosimo and so forth? Yeah. It was called a republic, right? Not democratic, but it was really just kind of like an aristocratic regime and a huge explosion of some of the world's most beautiful art. What do you think of that?
Yeah, so I think you've already put your finger on something important. When we talk about the Republic of Florence, it's not a republic in the way the United States is a federal republic.
Right.
And again, it's the same way, like we're a democracy, but not in the same way that Greek city-states were a democracy. We're also not a republic in the same way Florence was a republic. I would argue, and I think Tocqueville probably would too, when we talk about a place like Florence, and especially in Machiavelli's day, that's really still an aristocracy. You call it what you want, but it fits the category of aristocracy, where you have essentially a few elite families who are calling the shots and doing the governing. And maybe there's some franchise, maybe there's some, the people have some input, but ultimately it's still, it's there's a spectrum of these things. I think Tocqueville would say that you can be more or less democratic and more or less Republican. But Florence is going to count in his view, I think, as an aristocracy.
Okay. So I've always thought of an aristocracy in political terms, Aristotelian terms, and I think that's accurate. But what are the implications for the arts? How come there haven't? I mean, this is the big question. Nobody has a precise answer, but the closest thing to an epic in American history is Melville's Moby Dick, right? I think by common consent, sold less than 500 copies during his lifetime. Nobody wanted to read the thing, right? But it seems
still to this day, people want to own it, maybe, but they don't want to read it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love the long chapter on how to get the spermaceti out of the head of the whale. That's it's incredible. But if we can believe some historical sources, the Florentines, down to the last man, like the cobbler, right? He would point at the Duomo and say, "That's mine. This defines me." People weren't walking around New England and saying, "Can you believe this guy wrote this whale book? It's incredible." I don't think they cared, right?
No. It seems like they really didn't care. And you and I can talk about the chapter on cetology, but 99 out of 100 Americans can't because they have no idea it exists, right?
Yeah.
It hasn't changed in that way.
So what explains it, right?
Yeah. In that same series of chapters that we're talking about, the one you quoted earlier, right? There's a whole sequence where he talks about the effects of democracy on various cultural institutions. And just before that, he's a chapter on monuments. I actually love this. Actually, you can't see it here. It's off screen for me, but I keep on my little table, my side table, a little miniature version of Mount Rushmore.
Oh.
I don't know if you've ever been to Mount Rushmore.
David,
back
Jeff?
in the old
I've not.
days.
No. Is Trump on there yet? That's what I want to know. Is he on there yet?
There's some space on the back. I think they might start carving soon, but as far as I know, that's not.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's quite all right. You remember? So back in our Patrick Henry days.
Yes.
Remember Alan Snyder, our colleague Alan Snyder.
Yes,
he and I were tasked with going to one of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association conferences in South Dakota, and we were tasked with like babysitting the high schoolers, and so we did a high school program while the adults did the important stuff, whatever. Right. One of the things we did was take them out to Mount Rushmore. It was just like a 45-minute drive from where we were.
Did you bring him back or just drop him off there?
I was tempted, mind you. I got several stories here. Probably don't have time for all of them.
Let it rip.
This one maybe is a little important because I think I'm a fairly stoic guy. Like I don't weep at movies. I don't get terribly emotional, but I was moved. I mean, I can remember it sort of coming out of there's like a visitor center, and as you pass through, it's like your first real vision, and I was my breath was taken. It was stunning.
Yeah.
And I don't think I don't easily feel stunned, but I was stunned.
No, I know that's true of you. Was it Lincoln's nostrils? Is that what did it?
It's all of it. Not just the nostrils, but yes, including the nostrils. So I say this, okay, so I want you to hear that. Like, I was moved in my heart, made me proud. I felt like an American, and it was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Right there, sort of beside, so there's a viewing platform at the time. I think my understanding is it's been improved and developed since then. But back then, there was a tent building, like a little trailer, and it had over a sign over the door that said gift shop, because you got to have a gift shop if you have a monument, right?
Yep.
And I'm set. I think Tocqueville's saying you do maybe have to have a gift shop with your monument, because he talks about this. So I go into that gift shop, and there's a table right beside the door, and it's like an ordinary folding table, like a plastic table, and it's covered with little miniature versions of Mount Rushmore. Some are maybe 2 inches wide, some are 3 or 4 inches, right? But that's it. That's all we have. It's Mount Rushmore after Mount Rushmore. And so I bought myself a little tiny Mount Rushmore for $5 to take home. And I loved it, and it was great. I still have it on my table. It's a good talking piece, because Tocqueville says this about monuments. In America, right? In democratic times, he says, monuments have to represent the entire people. They have to be big enough and worthy of all of us. And Mount Rushmore is. And the Washington Monument is, right? And maybe the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, monuments in democratic times have to be worthy of the whole people. Or they have to be accessible. I need to be able to walk into the gift shop, plunk down $10 and take it home with me. Maybe stick it on my refrigerator as a magnet.
Right.
I'm participating in the monument when I put that thing on my table or my refrigerator or whatever.
Yeah. Hang it from your rearview mirror. Right.
Well, it makes me think about, the kerfuffle about, Confederate monuments. That was so much in the news
a few years ago.
Right. 5 years ago. And I wonder if maybe you could even comment on that, living in the South, and maybe through this particular lens of that shape, kind of how you saw that controversy.
And link it to the classics, Jeff, you're saying?
Yes.
Well, yeah, so I think there's something to this, right? Without getting too far afield, I think a lot of the woke movement, they understand, you control the narrative of history with your monuments. So if you can change those monuments, you can change you can change who we are. We participate in the monument. If it's big and glorious and it's us, that helps define who we are. If we get rid of it, maybe replace it with something else, or just at least tear it down, we become a different people.
Oh, very well said. Your emotional response, big softy that you are, to Lincoln's nostrils and Mount Rushmore, not dissimilar to my experience the first time I went to the Lincoln Memorial on the Mall.
I believe it. Yeah.
I went in there, and because it's a Greek temple, I was overwhelmed with a sense of awe, and it lasted 5, 6, 7 seconds. I mean, it lasted for a while, which is a long time for an emotionless person like me. But then I had to start to think, do I love this for the right reasons? I was having, frankly, a really pagan response. So being a Christian, I had to kind of, maybe I know Jeff is a Christian, but maybe he's not tracking with this. I had to kind of check myself a little bit, right? Because the temple, it's a pagan temple to this politically, historically great man in my estimation. But I was a little bit concerned about my response, and what you've said now about monuments helps me to understand that much better.
I appreciate that. But thank Tocqueville, right? He's the one who points this out.
Right.
And in the same way, you could get yourself, I'm sure, a little, snow globe of the Lincoln Memorial. Take it and put it on your desk.
Yeah. Well, speaking of snow globes, it's time for the ads. This episode of Ad Nauseam is brought to you by the great folks at Ratio Coffee. Mark Helweg, the entrepreneur from Portland, Oregon, now located down in Texas. He has done what some might have said was the moonshot of coffee machines.
He's done the impossible.
That's correct.
That's right.
Take something that's squirty plastic and hideous, transform it into a kind of a Rushmore, dare I say?
Yes, a work of art.
A Parthenon of coffee makers.
Indeed.
Drop it on your countertop and you're ready to go.
That's right. So this morning, Dave, I had my Ratio 8 all ready to go. I had the grounds grounded, and in the machine, I pressed the button, And after the 3 simple stages, I had a great cup of coffee waiting for me from this great product from Mr. Hellwig.
And this is the ratio 8 that you're brewing with?
It is the 8, the flagship, yep.
Okay, so you've got the bloom stage, right?
Yep.
The Alan Bloom stage. You've got the brew stage.
You got the brew stage.
And then what comes next?
And then there's the ready stage.
Tell me about the Fibonacci.
The Fibonacci, well, that's that you're talking about the head through which the metallic veins through which the scalding water comes through and goes over your grounds. That's right.
You never get scalded, though.
Never, no.
And then down into some kind of a hulking flagon?
Yes.
Kindle brick underneath? The scorch pad?
The weighty carafe, but no scorch pad.
Okay.
And the carafe is designed in such a way that it keeps the coffee hot for hours without it roasting it from the bottom.
Yes, and none of that BT that we've known to dislike. We've come to dislike.
That's right. So, listeners, if you want one of these wonderful machines, the 8, the flagship, its younger brother, the 6, and then most recently the number 4, which is perfect for your desktop.
Absolutely.
Go to ratiocoffee.com/adnauseum. And if you enter this coupon code, ANRatio2026, Dave, this will get them
$20 off any of their coffee machines, and it'll get them a great cup of coffee every morning, a Go Cup of Joe, as someone once said, and it'll get them the opportunity to support the podcast.
Check it out. This episode of Ad Nauseam is also brought to you by Hackett Publishing. Of all of our sponsors, this is the one that these guys took a chance on us from the very beginning, and they stuck with us through thick and thin.
That's right.
And we love them. They're a great company that is keeping the flame alive. And Dave, so many things I could say about Hackett Publishing, but I want you to say a few things first.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the webpage right now, and guess what? They have a copy of Democracy in America.
Oh, no
by
way.
Alexis de Tocqueville.
Wow.
Now, it's abridged with introduction by Sanford Kessler, translated and annotated by Stephen D. Grant. Now, someone might say, but I want to read the whole thing. Well, you can graduate to the Mansfield. Dr. Stacey was saying, or is going to say, I can't remember, he's read the book something like 15 times.
Yeah.
Why don't you start out maybe with the abridged version, just kind of warm up?
Yeah, dip your toes in.
That's right. Hackett has you covered. But that's not all, Jeff. What else do they have?
Well, they have just a massive selection. Our audience is probably self-selected and lean towards the classics, and you can find pretty much anything you want there. You're going to find multiple translations of the same work. You're going to find beautiful artwork, and I think for me, as important as all that is, in an affordable price.
Exactly.
Yep.
So when you ask your students to buy, say, we're going to read the Iliad this semester, we're going to read Ovid's Metamorphoses. That's not going to set them back $120.
No,
maybe under $25 even.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
When you compare that to what most textbooks cost today, it is a huge relief for students.
That's right.
Yep.
So what do the listeners need to do, please?
They need to go to hackettpublishing.com. That's HACKETT publishing.com. And if they put in this coupon code AN2026, so that's AN like ad nauseum, plus the current year, Dave, that will get them, actually, it's 3 wonderful things.
3 wonderful things. List what we might consider the best first.
That you're supporting this humble podcast.
I was going to say free shipping, but
okay.
Sorry. Bait and switch.
Yes.
Support the humble podcast.
Yep.
Plus
20% off your entire order, plus free shipping.
Check that out. This episode of Ad Nauseam is also brought to you by our good friend Della Chelpka. You're going to want this coupon code, Apelles, APELLES. What is that, Jeff?
That's the name of the greatest painter of antiquity.
Wow.
Yeah, someone who Alexander the Great himself loved. Yes.
So if you enter that coupon code, Apelles, you get 10% off your order. And this great works of art done by our friend Della. She's a Tucson-based oil painter who captures the people, places, and moments you cherish with breathtaking detail. She has showcased her work in multiple galleries, illustrated books, and is often commissioned for standout projects.
And she did this within the context of a Republican democracy, right?
Yes, that's right.
So it produces...
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's right.
Works of art can survive.
Yes.
So if you want your own, so to speak, your own little keychain Mount Rushmore, public monument, you're not going to get that from Della, but you're going to get some great, beautiful oil paintings. Yes. Check out her gallery, dellachelpka.art, DELLACHELPKA.art. Use the coupon code, Jeff. What is their ad nauseum discount?
Their ad nauseum discount is 10% off and free shipping within the continental United States.
That's right. Check it out.
Okay, Bob. So as we get back into it, I want to read this quote from Tocqueville, where he writes,
Sure.
Greek and Latin ought not to be taught in all schools, but it is important that those whose nature or whose fortune destines them to cultivate letters or predisposes them to that taste find schools in which one can be made a perfect master of ancient literature and wholly steeped in its spirit. To attain this result, a few excellent universities would be worth more than a multitude of bad colleges, where superfluous studies that are done badly prevent necessary studies from being done well. So I wonder if you could comment on that and tie in your kind of your own experience, having studied at an Ivy League school and have taught it at several places.
Sure. Yeah. So this actually it opens another door worth talking about maybe, and that's my experience reading this book. Even I can remember reading it the first time I was in graduate school, and I've read it probably if I read it at least 15 times maybe. And every time I get this same feeling at some point, usually partway through volume 2, I start to think, well, he really warned us about lots of problems, and we've ignored every single warning. It's good advice that we didn't follow. And I get to the end, and I start thinking, I need another chapter. I need a chapter where Alexis tells me how to fix it. Mm. What he does is tell us what to avoid so we don't have the problem. But we didn't avoid it, and so we have the problems. Right. When he didn't offer solutions. He's all about prevention. So anyway, I say that in this context because I think there probably was a time early on where we kind of heeded this advice. Colleges, universities, great ones were great, and they were for people who were kind of elite. And Harvard and Yale and maybe Stanford later, they trained up a leader class that could help lead us. We've gotten so far away from that, though. We've gone the route of the multitude of bad colleges and universities. We have tons of them. What, a few thousand, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 colleges and universities in America. It's a gigantic number, and most of them are poor. I'm sorry to my colleagues in higher ed when I say that. Don't worry, most of the K through 12 schools are poor too.
Yeah, it's true.
But we have not heeded this. In fact, what we've done is we brought the elite education down a long way to the mediocre, rather than lifting others up, which I think was probably the intention, but never really got traction.
So as classics has begun to erode at the upper levels, there's a huge flourishing where you are, Bob, at the K-12 schools. Lots of people studying classics. I don't know if it's ever going to rise up to the level of the colleges and universities, but it seems to me, at least I used to say this, the schools who have unlimited resources, Harvard, Princeton, so on and so forth, Stanford, they will keep teaching Greek and Latin and the classics, Greco-Roman antiquity, to a very small group of persons, and then very small institutions like Hillsdale and maybe a few others. There's the Ralston College now. There's University of Austin. They have really highly defined purposes, right? They're extremely clear about what they're doing. They'll probably keep going as well, teaching Greco-Roman antiquity. But everywhere in between, including the place that Jeff and I used to work, they're jettisoning it, but they could do so with Tocqueville as a cheerleader for that, right? He would say there's no reason to keep these things in those intermediary schools because it's pointless. You're dragging down the best students and you're forcing the weaker ones through something they can't really appropriate.
Yeah, I think there's probably some truth in that understanding of it. I think where Tocqueville would have some pause, though, is that those elite schools are really not very elite, though.
No.
Right? They're not doing it with the same excellence that maybe we used to do it.
For sure.
And that we even have some memory of, like, wow, that used to be good. And so even where it is preserved, now I think places, like you named a couple, places like Hillsdale or Ralston, maybe it will be done there with excellence, and I appreciate that, but they're kind of a drop in the bucket, and not really, I think, what Tocqueville's getting at. Our elite universities have kind of dropped the ball on being elite.
For sure. Princeton, for example, you can now get a degree in classics from Princeton without studying any Greek or Latin.
That's
so
insane,
why would you get
right?
Why would you get a degree in classics? It's like I'm going to get it's as though you're getting a degree in biology, but you don't need to take anatomy or ever dissect anything.
Yeah.
Bob, when you studied at Penn, was there a vibe, a sense that I am at an elite place, and this place can consider itself elite? And was it? Yeah. And or was it a mask? What was your experience?
If so, why is he slobbing around with us? Is that your question?
Right. What was special about Penn there was definitely the vibe, we are elite, right? They told you that every day. So in case you forget, you were reminded, don't worry, you're elite. Part of the eliteness was the ridiculous price tag. It was super expensive. Part of the eliteness was, yeah, you had to have a good SAT score to get in. But this was true, I think, and I had friends at other Ivy League schools. I can say this, I think, with a high level of confidence. Once you were in, getting in was hard, but once you were in, it was not particularly more onerous than any place else.
Yeah.
You could get that degree with roughly the same amount of effort you would at many other places, but it would have a more value attached to it for some reason. Had nothing to do with what I did, though.
Yeah. Do you remember
again, sort of reputation, history, price, all that sort of stuff, which is not a good measure of education.
No. When we were at Patrick Henry together, Bob, 2000 to 2006, one of the things that I found frustrating, it's a minor thing, was that most schools advertise their excellence based on the entrance score.
Yeah,
right. But it ought to be measured based on, the outcome. What some schools do. Some schools do this as well. They'll say, we place 95% of our graduates. There's a little bit of a fallacy involved in that, though, because might the person have gotten the job without the college education?
Sure. Yeah.
So it's really.
Well, I have often said that if Harvard University, by and large, recruits the best freshman class every year.
Right.
So if you take the best students we have, if you left them alone for 4 years,
right,
they'd be fine on the other end of that, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Harvard does much to improve them, frankly. I think there are probably some smaller liberal arts schools that are taking students and moving that needle tremendously, are having a huge impact, but they don't have the reputation that our elite schools do. Again, you're sort of circling back to where we were, because they've kind of ceased being elite in any educational academic sense. They're culturally elite, but they're not academically so.
Yeah, that certainly was my experience at Calvin, right? I entered as I think somewhat gifted but extremely mediocre student, and the excellence of the instruction there, gave me so much. I would never have gotten into Harvard. There's no way. I just didn't have the the pedigree or the performance, but Calvin moved the needle for me a lot, and I hope there are a lot of places like that. Now you're going to tell me I need to connect it to classics.
Yeah. I mean, it strikes me too as this push for everybody should go to college, as the democratization of getting a bachelor's degree.
Right.
I mean, by definition, it devalues that degree. I've had several students who've got their degree and they feel like, well, now I have no choice but to go on and get a master's.
Right.
Because that's the only way I can distinguish myself from this growing pool of people who all have the same thing.
That's right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
I do wonder if we're turning the corner on this a little bit. My sense going forward is, I think, just in terms of the population of parents and students of this generation, the idea of a college degree is losing its value. It's gotten so crazy expensive, right? I mean, even at mediocre schools, you're talking $50,000, $60,000 a year. That's crazy. The value proposition is beginning to crack up, and I think parents are seeing that. And so I think we're going to see over the next, say, 10 to 15 years, a lot of students opting not to go to college and doing just fine. And so maybe we'll see maybe a little more, like, if you're going to be an elite school, you better actually be elite.
Yeah. Now we're just to kind of take this back to monuments and such. You mentioned you got your advanced degree at Virginia. And so I'm thinking about that school, that campus as a monument to Jefferson and all that. I wonder if you could comment on how you experienced there at UVA.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked, because in one sense, there's like a total cult of personality about Thomas Jefferson. To this point, like, not everybody knows this, but professors, at least when I was there, maybe this has changed, but professors at Virginia, because Jefferson never had a PhD, right? He wasn't Dr. Jefferson. You never referred to your professors by doctor. They were all Mr. or Ms. They had PhDs from elite universities around the world, but you couldn't call them doctor, because if it was good enough for Thomas Jefferson, it was good enough for them. So Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Smith, Ms. Jones, whatever.
Yeah. Right. Oh, wow. Yeah.
So there was definitely a cult of personality. But even back then, so I'm there in the 90s, right? Even back then, it was already starting to happen. There was a lot of sort of reinterpretation of history happening. Jefferson becomes kind of a villain for some people, right? And so there's this love-hate relationship. We love him. We also intend to tear him down.
I do think that Bob and I share this in common, that he is our least favorite founder. Isn't that right?
I would say so. Yeah, that's really true.
Yeah. But that's not to say he wasn't a great man who contributed a great deal.
I would often tell my fellow students, I really dislike Thomas Jefferson, but not for the same reasons you do.
Correct. Yeah, for quite different reasons.
Yeah.
So at the K-12 level, Bob, and we got to keep our eye on the clock here. I know you've taught at all these places, plus you were at Houston Baptist for a while and some other schools. What kinds of things are you trying to do as a headmaster and an instructor at a K-12 school? Maybe it's in the top 5 in Jackson, Tennessee. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, maybe top
Easily.
4.
What are you trying to do there to help these students, both the really strong and gifted ones, maybe the average, the weaker ones, and what are you aiming them toward in terms of the rest of their lives?
Yeah, there's you all know this, right? If you're raising children, you know this. There's a huge push, I think, in our culture that says you need to get a good SAT score so you can go to a good university, so you can get a good job and have a happily ever after life. Like that's the sequence, right? And I think I'm probably preaching to the choir here. That is simply untrue. Number one, the standardized test score does not guarantee your admission to that university. Number two, going to that university does not guarantee you that job that you think you need. Number three, having that job does not mean you're going to have a happy life. In fact, it may be quite contrary. So what we really focus on is really educating that whole child and preparing them for a life as a thriving adult for the kingdom of God. You know, what does it mean to serve Jesus Christ? It means being a good husband, being a good wife, being a good parent. It means contributing to your church, being an important and helpful member of your community. Those are the kind of things that will produce a happy outcome for your life. I don't care what your job is. If you want to be that welder, go ahead and be that welder. Be a good one, but also be a good man, be a good woman, be a good person, be the kind of person who serves the Lord in everything they do. That's where we're trying to take them. But I'll tell you, maybe in one sense that seems obvious. Isn't that what all Christian schools should do?
Sure.
But we get a lot of pressure, even from many of our own families, in the other direction. Nobody disputes what I just said. Nobody would say, I don't care what kind of wife my daughter becomes. But they still want to know, how do I get one more point on the ACT?
Yeah.
So how does the classics play into your instruction there? You've talked about teaching the
really
students
classics centered, especially in the upper school.
Okay.
Lower school is about getting them ready to study the classics, and the upper school is really about digging deeply and helping them see that, we live in an unusual age, like unique, or what's going on for us is really unprecedented, but you could say that about many ages. And understanding sort of how we got to where we are and how human beings, good thinking, intelligent human beings have thought through and wrestled with those eternal questions. That's how you prepare for a world that none of us can define. Let's just for a moment take it back to Mount Rushmore, right? Those 4 faces on there. Just take George Washington. What was he called to do in his life? We're gonna fight a successful military campaign against the greatest power on earth. Well, good luck with that. But successfully, he did it, right? And then I'm going to help found a country that is unlike anything before it. You don't prepare for that. He didn't go to college and major in country founding, right? There's no vocational prep. He didn't have it. What did he have? He had a classical education. He read probably 75% of the same books our students read. And thinking through and wrestling with those questions and dealing with those same issues that we see across the liberal arts, that's what prepared him. I argue that's what's going to prepare our students as they become adults in a world that none of us can anticipate. What's the next 20 years look like?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would hate to think I'm preparing you for a job in particular that might go away in 2 years, let alone 20.
Right. Indeed. Yeah.
If I can throw a little Augustinian cold water on that, as great as it was, TR is also on Mount Rushmore.
He is.
In the same way that, TJ is our least favorite founder.
Yeah.
I think for you and I, we trace most of the progressivism to TR, right?
Yeah.
Not to Lincoln. So what do you do with TR?
Well, first of all, I take him off Mount Rushmore. Wouldn't be my plan.
Just chisel him right off, right?
Yeah. Or could we impose Trump on TR maybe if we need him up there somewhere? So no, but I'll say this: his education was essentially classical.
That's a
Even
good point.
so, and he's navigating the Industrial Revolution as it comes to fruition in the United States. So there's a sense in which he does kind of belong there. If we're talking about how do you prepare for a whole new world that never happened before, he's kind of doing that too.
So you want me to cut him a little bit of slack?
A little bit, but only a little, because he's also
Okay.
responsible for many things we don't care for.
That's right. Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, well, I think we should, I mean, Jeff, maybe you have a couple other questions. Otherwise, I'm heading in a wrap-up sort of direction.
I'm looking at the clock, and
Okay.
I think we do need to kind of wind it down.
Okay, so Bob, the last thing here was we usually ask our guests who have expertise like yours.
Or me.
What do you want to say to all of those Greek and Latin students, those teachers? We have headmasters in our audience. I know that you're an excellent teacher and a bright man because we've been friends for a long time. What would you say to encourage them, to give them maybe some advice, kind of your closing remarks here?
Yeah, that's an excellent question because I'm speaking to myself as I say this, right?
Sure.
For all the reasons I was just suggesting, it often feels, especially if you're in a headmaster role, you are swimming upstream. Even the parents who choose classical Christian schools are often choosing them for other reasons.
Sure.
Some come to fall in love with what we do. Others remain kind of just, we're here for the Christian part, or we think we're going to get them to a better college or whatever. It can just seem lonely. It can seem like you're going against the tide, as it were.
Right.
But my encouragement would be that is not true. There's always a remnant, as we know from Scripture, right? And when it comes to education, there's still a remnant. There are people who are just as committed, just as passionate about genuinely preparing young men and women to serve the cause of Christ in the most efficient and best possible ways to cultivate those gifts. I always tell my teachers, you have it way harder than any public school teacher. The goal of a public school is to take a kid and fit him into a slot, like squish him in as much as you have to, because they're all going to be the same by the time we're done. You have the opposite problem. You have 15 students in class. God has called you to educate 15 different people in a somewhat different way. We train up a child in the way he should go. That's hard, right? It's not easy, but it's a much better and higher calling.
Fantastic. Right. Yeah, I think that's a great way to.
That's a
great note to end on. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Bob. We really appreciate it, and we'll have you back on some other time to talk maybe a little bit more about the Florentine Renaissance.
I want to hear. I wanted to hear more about Machiavelli.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
He's the man
great
for
topic,
Machiavelli.
absolutely.
So, thank you so much, Bob. Take care.
Thanks, Bob.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Well, Jeff, that's a wrap on this episode.
That's right.
Did you enjoy our time with Bob?
I loved it. That was really, really great. What a sharp, articulate, interesting guy.
Yeah.
I loved it.
You can tell why I enjoyed having him so much as a colleague.
Yep, and I think we do. We have to get him back on and talk more about Machiavelli and Florentine, the Renaissance in Florence.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But we do have to get out of here.
We do?
It's not the Poets Society or the Fred Poets Society.
Yeah.
Is there a particular reason we have to leave?
Well, I think there were angry people from both Nashville and Memphis. So we learned that Jackson sits right between them.
Yes.
And so they both want to claim Jackson for their own.
I see.
And so they're upset that we didn't come down on either side.
Maybe some Teddy Roosevelt fans also.
Not happy.
Yeah, the Rough Riders, as they like to call themselves.
That's right, exactly.
Beating down our door.
Yeah, there's a gang outside.
Right.
So let's wrap this up quick. Dave.
Okay.
So hey Dave, I know we got listeners.
Yes.
They want to learn some Greek. They want to learn some Latin.
Right.
And they want to learn it from you.
Okay, so I, kind of have some of the same elitist tendencies as Dr. Stacey. You're smiling down there because you know it's true. But I've tried to make this course really accessible, right? Really accessible. LatinPerDiem.com. Go to LatinPerDiem.com. Please check out my Greek program, a Moss Method. I have students in Uganda. I have students in Australia, the United States, Ireland, the Netherlands, all over the world, studying Greek with me. I think it's an excellent value in terms of what you get for your money. I put a lot of work into making this course strong. You can get a 10% discount if you enter 10+, 10PLUS at checkout. You want to get started in Latin like Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and others, check out my LLPSI course, and I'm very confident you won't regret it.
Fantastic.
Whom do we need to thank?
Oh, as always, our wonderful Mishka, who puts this together so quickly and so nicely and so professionally. We can't thank her enough. We got to thank Jeff Sheets, this wonderful guitarist. Where's he out of? Is it Kansas City?
Kansas City.
Kansas City. He's the shredder that you hear. The intro, the outro.
Thrill Seeker, Rush
Hour. Yeah,
right.
Just great stuff.
So much fun.
Yep.
And if you want to check out some of those show notes I've been talking about, go to latinperdiem.com/adnauseum. You can get a t-shirt at adnauseum.com. Still working on some of this merchandise, trying to sort these things out.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, right? I'm a student of Greek and Latin. I can't do all this stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but stay tuned.
Right.
Yeah, check it out. Yep.
It's coming along.
Mm-hmm. And Dave, next week, next show,
Mahru.
Back to Mahru.
We were going to do Mahru this time, but seemed like it'd be better to move Bob up in the lineup in the batting order.
Yep, indeed.
But before we set you up, Jeff, for the gustatory parting shot, we've got one final item of business, and that is the Aristotle giveaway.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So if people want to get in on this drawing,
that's right.
They need to email you.
That's right. Dave at adnauseum.com. Don't forget the V. This is for the Hackett 2-volume set, and it is edited by CDC Reeve and that other guy.
The other guy.
Pavlos.
Yes, Kontos.
Kontos. And we want you to put the name Kontos into the subject heading, and then you will be entered for the drawing, which will take place, I think it's 2 weeks from today,
coming up
on March 12th.
Yeah.
So David at nauseam.com. We've got some entries. We'd like to get many more. You could be the lucky Aristotle winner.
Yeah.
Jeff, you have our gustatory parting shot to take us out.
This is what from D.H. Lawrence.
Okay.
From his book Sons and Lovers. He wrote, "He toasted his bacon on a fork and caught the drops of fat on his bread. Then he put the rasher on his thick slice of bread and cut off chunks with a clasp knife, poured his tea into his saucer, and was happy."
Oh, I could be happy with bacon.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening.